Hey everybody, it's Will with Schedulefly, and this is a really cool guest today. I've got Douglas Warren on the phone, and he and his wife Peggy own Four Seas Ice Cream in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And check this out: this place has been there since 1934, so 84 years in business. Douglas's dad bought it in 1960, and then sold it to he and his wife Peggy in 2001, and so they've been running it since 2001. So Douglas, and by the way, and he's out doing ice cream deliveries today. So we're gonna ask him about that. But thank you for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So okay, so we got to get into the history a little bit because this is a really special place. I saw that it was like the third oldest ice cream place in New England, and I mean, I would imagine probably one of the older ones in the country. You guys have won all kinds of top 10 ice creams in the country awards. Lots of different lists have put you on there. So what's the backstory about this guy W. Wells Watson that started it in 34, and how did your dad wind up buying it back in 1960?
Yeah, Mr. Watson was approached by a friend of the family's son who wanted to take this old blacksmith shop and turn it into an ice cream shop across the street from his parents' restaurant. And so Mr. Watson was the financial backer of Four Seas Ice Cream, and a couple years later, the kid still wasn't turning a profit. He was actually losing like $300 a year, which I'm sure was quite a bit of money back in the 30s. So Mr. Watson shut down his insurance business in the summertime up in Boston, and he came down and ran it himself, and was able to, being a penny pincher, he was able to watch all those nickels and dimes, carefully watching everything. So he was able to turn a profit, and slowly but surely the business took off and get more and more well known for having the best ice cream around. So that's how he kind of started it. And I've heard some really interesting stories about him. But my mom started working there in 1954 as a sophomore in high school, and my dad started working there in 56 as a college student. And that's where my mom and dad met, was behind the counter. And less than 17 months later, they were getting married. I got married the following year on Labor Day weekend.
Wow! So they met each other there. They got married, and then it's within soon after that they bought the place, right?
Yep. Less than 2 years later, they bought the place in 1960. They winter of 59-60 and started running it in 1960 by themselves, and went out and instantly bought a new ice cream machine that we make it in, because the previous owners, Watson, only had a 20-quart machine, and now we have the bigger one that's the 40-quart, so I can make approximately 40 quarts at a time. Mr. Watson would occasionally run out of ice cream on a Saturday night, and my dad's like, well, you probably shouldn't do that on, certain flavors. So he wanted to really make sure that customers got what they want when they came in. So a lot of changes.
Well, okay, so the now has the basic recipe stayed the same, or what? I mean, what made it so special? You're in an incredible place in Cape Cod, for sure. But I mean, ice cream shops come and go all the time. What helped it work so long before your folks got involved? And then what's
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that they when you have a passion for something, you do it right.
Yeah.
And if you have an attention for detail, you're going to do something right. The way that you select the best ingredients, would go down to the local farm stand and select the fruit. You work with the fruit buyer over there and trying to get the best tasting peaches around, or the best bananas or cantaloupes. And having that fresh fruit in your ice cream just makes it pop so much better than pouring an extract or a flavoring in from a company. And some flavorings are amazing, but nothing really beats fresh bananas being put in, fresh ginger root being chopped up and pureed up and put into the ice cream. So there's quite a bit of a science to ice cream, and personally, that's my opinion, but you could have a forward flavor like your initial burst, and then you could have another flavoring that gives a nice trailing. You didn't get it initially, but you kind of get it kind of on the tongue afterwards. So if you could combine 2 or 3 different flavorings, let's call them black raspberry. If you bought 2 or 3 different kinds and find the right combination so that you have initial burst, and then you have a great middle, and then a following flavor, then that's going to be perfect. I mean, we would do taste testing parties. Occasionally when somebody discontinued a product, it was great because, we'd say, okay, which is the best coffee ice cream, or which one's the best black raspberry, and you bring over your friends, and you try like 6 or 7 different combinations, and they say, okay, this is the one we like the best, and like, okay, the majority wins there, and so that was the way you kind of do things, and still do it today. The good reason for doing this also is someone can't change. If they discontinue a product, they're only changing your recipe by maybe a third or a half.
Yeah.
So you can typically replace that product with another company's, flavoring without having it change your recipe completely. And customers going, why is the black raspberry different? Or why is the, butterscotch ice cream different than last year? And you're like, well, they changed it on us, But now customers typically won't notice any change to the flavor because the way you kind of engineer your ice cream for that, complete burst. And it's more expensive. And there's more ingredients that you have to have around your shop to have 2 or 3 different ingredients. In some cases, 4, 5, 6 ingredients. They'll go into one ice cream. It's just easy, and I think the lazy man way out to make a less quality product is just pouring in one ingredient and you're done.
Right.
And by mixing and being more of a chemist, trying to find that right balance of flavorings lends itself to having a really, really good product. And I think the second fold to this question of yours is having the owners typically there every day, every batch of ice cream being made, you're going to have a very high quality product. My taste buds are not going to be the same as a 17-year-old kid that may be helping me make the ice cream. And some owners may just let their help make the ice cream for them. We don't, we're there all the time tasting it. And I'm like, you're missing something? Did you forget an ingredient? Did you forget this? Or I'm not sure if there's sometimes the dairy companies that send you the cream for the ice cream be making milk for half gallons or for, schools, and then they switch over to a high-fat ice cream base. And there's going to be a time where they're mixing the two together. They should not be selling those. They should be slowly reintroducing that back into the cream so that they don't waste product. But occasionally we've gotten a delivery where it wasn't the 15% butterfat that we were wanting. It was probably 10 or 12. And I could hear the difference being poured into the machine. And the look of the ice cream looked a little bit more icy. It didn't have the same mouthfeel. And I'm like, something's wrong with this. And I'm like, tasted the cream. I'm like, yeah, there's something like it's colder. It's not that dense, rich cream that I'm used to. So by being there, you could prevent accidents like that from happening. And it's happened in the past. And call up the company and said, you delivered me some product that's not right. And like, you're the only one that noticed. I'm like, well, I pay attention.
You pay, yes, right. That's awesome.
I pay attention.
So you grew up in the business. Is it something you knew you always wanted to be involved with?
Yeah, I pretty much grew up in a playpen in the back room. My mom was baking sandwiches or whatever. But my brother, he was the middle child. He was going to be the one that went to business school. He was in college to go to business school, and I was going to be, a designer, an architect, or something engineering-wise. So my brother was going to be the golden child to take over the family business, but unfortunately, he was hit by a car and killed on his senior year on spring break. So at that point in time when we lost my brother, I kind of did some soul searching when I went back to school after that little week, and kind of like, I could do that. I mean, I still want to do what I'm doing now, but if my dad ever gives me a call, I'd love to be that. It's a very rewarding job. It's a very difficult job. It's a lot of hours that you have to sacrifice to be there. If you're working, 100 hours a week on the average, whether or not you're in the store or you're working on the computer, or always on the phone. But my dad was part of the community. He was well loved and was just, putting smiles on people's faces. You drive down the street and everybody knew your car, and you wave to everybody. People see you in the grocery store and say, still do say, your dad was the best person ever. It just, so when my brother died, I'm like, that's kind of cool to be part of a community and part of, history and putting smiles on faces. And my wife and I, anytime you're even remotely sad, all you have to do is look around the store and you see a little kid and they're, waving that ice cream cone like it's a sparkler on the 4th of July, and they're just beaming from ear to ear. And, we've seen kids, the parents take away their cone for a second and they start to cry. And then as soon as they bring the spoon back to their mouth, they're all smiles again. And they take the spoon out of the mouth, they start to cry, and they put it back in, they start smiling. And it's hilarious to watch some of these children experience ice cream and good ice cream. It's just amazing. And so you just can't help but smile yourself.
I think that's really it's an amazing story and a horrible tragedy and but congrats on finding that path, because you've really you've taken over an institution in that town and done a phenomenal job with it. Clearly, I read that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of the way it's laid out and set up is very similar to what it was like initially. Is that right?
Yeah, the basic footprint of the store has stayed exactly the same. The front counter area. That we only have 7 tables in our dining room. The ice cream room has stayed the same. The only thing that really has changed is we keep adding some freezers to the back of the building, so we now have more freezers than we do, square footage inside the building.
Oh wow!
So
and is that
we're good.
Well, I was going to say, is that because you're because I know you're out on deliveries now? So is that a big part of the business that you've grown into doing deliveries for restaurants and things like that?
Yeah, it just over the years, we've grown so much and doing so much business that we just needed more freezer space and in cooler space. Cooler is just a basic walk-in refrigerator, and I could park my Suburban, probably 2 Suburbans inside of our cooler. That's how big it is. The other day I had over, I think 100 mixes, that's our cream, crates of cream delivered for us. So we need a big room to hold all that for our, production. And the wholesale end of it, the restaurants have definitely picked up over the years. And, the sale at the end of the summer, before we started staying open, we would have a sale at the end of the summer. So that week from Labor Day weekend to closing weekend, so we closed the weekend after, we used to do 11,000 quarts in those 11 days.
Good grief.
So we needed a lot of space to house this, and right now we're maxed out. We can't really add any square footage as far as our freezers, unfortunately, because of our septic system out back. But we're kind of like, we can't take any new clients on at this point in time as far as wholesale. So unless we build one, but if we build one, it's not going to be attached to our building, which kind of adds a new wrinkle of how to get the ice cream. You're taking a product from a cold area out into the warm air and back into a cold air, and it's just a lot more work and labor. So we're kind of at that point, that growing pains, and how to, if we do want to continue to build up our wholesale accounts, how do we manage that? And so we're kind of at that point in time, we're kind of scratching our heads going, do we just kind of stay as we are, or do we grow, but then we have some build-out costs, and then try to figure out a best way of handling, the freezers?
Yeah, there's that dilemma. You've got a
Yep.
business that's running well, and you know what to expect, and you've got to you just have kind of everything figured out, but then trying to grow, there's probably a lot of unknown things that could come along with that too. But it's a good challenge to have. I'm sure y'all will figure that out. Do you?
Yeah, if you have a crystal ball, I'd love to borrow it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, I mean, I know it's a good problem for sure. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are wishing they had an opportunity to grow, I'm sure. So probably in your business, I mean, ice cream's got to be a tough business, but you've really
It is.
go ahead.
It's amazing how, people, I've been in business for only 5 years, and they already have 3 shops.
Yeah.
And we've only had the one shop, but we do, wholesaling. But I marvel at the people that take those risks to expand the business and have 2 or 3 shops. And I've known a couple people that had 4 or 5 shops, and then they went back eventually just to having the one shop because it was so difficult to manage all the other shops and have somebody at each different location that you trusted and that would do a good job and not rob you blind or,
Yeah.
do your product an injustice and almost, it's tough to find the right people that you can trust and to have that same passion. And I think if you have someone, you pay them really well because it's hard to find someone that has passion and that integrity to do it right. And we've never opened up a second shop. We've contemplated it. My dad contemplated it. What it comes down to is just providing us, a decent living and a decent retirement. And, do you need to be greedy to open up a second shop, or it also is a huge risk, by opening up a second shop, because it could fail. And now I just put out this money for this building. I put out time for the build out. And now I got to recoup those costs. I might now have to work longer and retire 2 years past where I would have loved to had retire at. Or am I spending less time with my wife because she's down kind of trying to run one and I'm trying to run the other? And it's already difficult enough trying to run one shop as a husband and wife team and see each other. The only time we see each other is typically at the shop.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I'm sure. Yeah, there's a lot of things that come into that, a lot of variables in play for sure. It sounds like, but you've thought a lot about it, so I'm sure y'all will figure that out. Do you? Are there? So the footprint stayed the same. You've grown into the wholesale. What's changed? I mean, ice cream's. You've got a philosophy you've had all along, which is using fresh ingredients and you shared a lot about that. What's changed about the business over the years since you've been involved?
I mean, I've made some slight improvements to the building, here or there, and make it a little bit more efficient, or something runs well. I added a motor to. We have a hand crank funnel where you take ice cream out of the machine, pour it in the top of this funnel, and it kind of has a hand crank like an old Model T, like to start up the engine. It has one of those on the side of it that you crank, and it would pour it into our containers, our quarts and pints, slowly so that you can control it and get it out of the machine so that you can get the next batch going. I added a motor to that and had a foot pedal added to it so that I can, do it much faster and a little bit easier and less back braking or arm braking. Small little things like that. My wife has done a fantastic job on the retail end of things. We now have tons of clothing, hats, merchandise, mugs, that type of stuff. We tried to do it online one year and didn't do very well. And then we put it underneath the tent out in front of our store or beside our store. And it just took off. And so she handles all that. And I said, try this, and of course it doesn't sell. And then she says, oh, why don't we try this? And of course it sells. So she's the guru on the what sells outside under the tent. So we've been blessed with that too. We had some customers that owned a hand blown glass kind of ornaments, and they only did kind of like high landmark like the Eiffel Tower or the White House or anything kind of famous looking buildings. And then they were customers, and they approached us and said, can we do a glass ornament of your building and sell it, and you could sell it in your own shop? And we're like, sure. So we were the first ones they did of like a private building instead of a landmark. So we have those now, and then we ended up adding one that had it looks like our port container, but it's a hand blown glass, and they hand write on every single ornament our logo and everything else. So that's changed. And 9 years ago, I guess, I stopped teaching, and we started doing winter hours, so we can take on a few more wholesale accounts that wanted us to supply them year round, and we started having hours in the shop. But it was kind of an abbreviated hours, and we've pared that down to, the last few years, we're just doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all winter long. And we just sell quartz pints, ice cream cakes, and the hot fudge, some of the toppings. And last year we started doing like pre-scooped hoodsie cups almost. So the customers really love having that available year round now, instead of not having our ice cream. People would go through withdrawals, all winter long, and they would try to stack their freezer full of ice cream. That's why we sold so much ice cream that final week where we were open. They were trying to pack their freezer so they could get through Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we would get calls all the time. Our freezer went down. Do you have any private stash that you would want to part? And it was funny and sad all in the same breath that something happened to their prized possession of their ice cream, but now they don't have to worry about it. They can just come in and buy more ice cream anytime they want and now that's at markets around town. Ice cream cakes started when we decided to go year round too, so we started doing ice cream cakes. So we have two different flavor ice creams. We could custom make it, and then inside we have a hot fudge and cake crunch, and we have a delicious whipped cream frosting that we frost them with. And so it's almost like having a hot fudge sundae in a cake form. So, and we've had some, I do a lot of the decorating, but we've had some really talented young ladies that have come through our doors over the years and done a phenomenal job to help out, because you do 100 cakes in a month. You just can't do that all yourself and produce the ice cream and manage the store. So we have some phenomenal cake decorators. So those are kind of the big things. And this year we started doing hot dogs for the first time. We've just done cold sandwiches in the past, and we just wanted to see if we can, expand the sandwiches a little bit. And my wife twisted my arm and said, let's try hot dogs. And once again, she's right. And
I love it. I was going to say, hot dogs and ice cream in the summer is perfect. That's awesome.
Yep.
I bet you sold a lot of hot dogs so far this summer.
We are. My mom was not for it. She says that's not very Four Seas-esque, and I'm like, well, it's not the same old ice cream parlor that you ran back in your days, but we gotta keep working and trying to improve our business and keep making the customers happy, and we can't just stay the same forever, because then another business could come along and pass you. So you're always trying to tweak little things here and there just to improve your customers' love for your place.
Yeah, it's that interesting balance of, I always find that fascinating, of finding the balance between things that need to stay the same, that people love, and that's why they love. I mean, you've been there for nearly 100 years, and there's things about that people like. They like the history behind it. They like knowing what they're going to get and knowing that you're going to be there season after season when they're there and so forth. But then there's that part of having to do little, like you said, little things. It's a tough balance trying to figure that out. And you don't want to change. You don't want to move too far in one new direction, because then you kind of lose that sort of iconic appeal that you have. But then, doing something like that is a great thing. But I imagine that's...
Yeah, customers would always say, don't change a thing.
Yeah.
And then they, in the same breath, they're like, well, the bathrooms are kind of, small. Can't you make them bigger? I'm like, you just told me not to change, but you're telling me that I need to make bigger bathrooms. So, I mean, it's just, it's an old building. You can't do much for, changing something like that. But yeah, and people constantly say, don't change a thing. This has been, I've been coming. We had one customer. She passed away, unfortunately, last year in her 90s, and she was there opening day back in the 30s when Four Seas opened, and her grandparents brought her. Her parents were there, so she says there's like 7 generations that have been enjoying our ice cream. Her grandparents, her parents, herself, and then her children, grandchildren, and now great-great-grandchildren are coming. And every summer on her birthday, we would have a store full of her family that would come in, and in July, and have a little birthday celebration. And it's wonderful to watch. And last year, her health had failed a little bit, and so she couldn't come down to the Cape that summer. And so her family members asked if I could ship her ice cream, and I said absolutely. And so we shipped her ice cream, and she was able to have it at her bedside and on her birthday. So while the family here was eating some ice cream, she was eating some ice cream back at home. And she passed away about 3 weeks after her birthday, and she just, the family member said she died with a smile on her face, and she just has those great memories. And they don't want us to ever change the store, and they sent a big collage of pictures of the kids and me and this matriarch of the family, and her signature wood panel station wagon from the 50s that she still owned. So
oh my gosh.
It's just really, really, really amazing customers and fan base. And then I had first year I came back, and then when I was going to change this and I was going to change that, and my dad and mom had always had hand printed, poster board with, flavors of sundaes on it, some of the flavors on it, frap toppings, different things. I'm like, this is so hokey, I should make this a little bit more professional. And sure enough, I was grading some papers because I was a school teacher, and I was grading some papers. It was a slow afternoon, and this grandmother was there with her grandchild enjoying ice cream, and she was talking to a tourist. And she was quick to tell the tourist, it's hokey. I love it. I hope they never change a single poster board up here, because in this ever-changing world of Starbucks and McDonald's rebranding themselves every 5 years, this is one of the few businesses that I know that still looks like, for the most part, there's more new plaques on the wall for awards won, and every 5 years it seems like the Coca-Cola machine changes. But other than that, it's the same shop, and I hope they never change. And yeah, some people may not like that hokiness of hand-printed. So, I didn't change another sign after that.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really cool. It's interesting that you heard that. Yeah, it's people, everything else does change so quickly all the time. It's people look for that reliability and consistency for sure. And what hasn't changed, of course, too, is how you and Peggy and your team make people feel when they're there. I mean, that's just such a critical part of your business. Any kind of hospitality business is the way you make people feel, which I imagine you're always looking for folks that can do that, because like you said, you're working tons of hours. Peggy's working tons of hours. It's your baby. It's your passion. Are you still able to find people that are able to give that same kind of hospitable feeling to your customers when they come in every year?
Yeah, for the most part, we have. My dad being a school teacher, he started being a school teacher like the year before he bought the store, and so he was able to ask his fellow school teachers, do you have any really good kids?
Oh
And
yeah.
they don't have to be the star, bookworm. I want someone with personality, someone that's going to be able to, look you in the eye and smile and take good care of a customer. And also, they have to have good math skills because we have always required the kids to do all the addition in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
So they will have to keep like several subtotals in their heads because pints and quarts go into separate categories in the the cash register. And then, what you eat on the premises are taxed differently. So the kids have to be very, very smart. And so over the years, he's just gone to the honor roll students, teachers, and asked them to, provide a list of kids that they think would be perfect for Four Cs. And so we go recruiting. We go after the kids with 4 or 5 stars because 4 or 5 of his teachers or her teachers recommended him or her for that job. And so that's the way we've done it. And I was a school teacher, so it was easy for me to ask my co-teachers the same questions. And now that I'm not teaching there, I still have the relationships that my dad formed over there too, of finding the right teachers that will give you the right recommendations. And it just this generation that's out there right now is a little less, they have different expectations, and they want a little more for less type of work. So it's trying to change them now and trying to remold them. And I think in the older days, it was a lot easier to mold them because they were already great kids. And now you kind of have to do a little bit more work training the kids and get them to, where you want them. And unfortunately, in our business, when you're hiring a 15 or 16-year-old kid, you only get them for 5 or 6 years. Sometimes you get some gems that stick around for, graduate school too, but there's more and more kids that are just 5 years and they're done. They have to go out and get a internship or something. There's so many now internships. We lose kids after 4 or 5 years. That's just when they're starting to be a really productive person here, because it takes a couple of years to kind of learn a lot, and you're always still learning something even in your 3rd and 4th year. You're picking up different nuances of the business, and you start to trust them and let them handle some of the money and stuff like that. And it's great for them because when they go out with the real job, business owners interviewing them after they're leaving college and saying, what can you bring to the table? And it's like, I worked at a very, very busy ice cream shop. I eventually worked my way up to being an assistant manager and manager. I had to take 4 or 5, maybe 10 kids at a time and keep them busy. I had to handle customers. I had to handle, you talk to all these restaurateurs, what a person learns by working at a restaurant, the multitasking skills and how to handle customers, good and bad customers, how to get along with other employees that you may or may not like, but you still have to work with them every day. Well, that skill set that someone learns on their first job and work through high school and college is such a valuable lesson to go through the rest of their life. And I have so many ex-employees or alumni that said, I use a lot of skills that I learned at Four Cs the rest of my life. And at my dad's funeral, we had a celebration for his life afterwards, and people started sharing stories. And one of the girls that graduated with me told how she was in a nursing program. She never did an internship. She wanted to work at Four Cs for 4 years of college. And her first nursing job, person was interviewing her, and she's like, how come you didn't work at a hospital intern? She goes, I worked in an ice cream shop. And she goes, well, how would that apply to a nursing job? And she goes, I had to multitask like you couldn't believe. You had to do so many things. You had to have your head on a swivel. You had to keep an eye out for customers that may not be happy. You had to make sure the flavors were, you had to do so many things. And if you don't believe me, call my boss, which was my dad at the time, and he'll let you know. And sure enough, the lady called my dad right there. She called, and my dad said, yep, this is a terrific employee. You'd be a fool not to hire her. And basically said, you'd be an idiot not to hire this girl. This girl is one of the top, brightest girls that can do just about anything. She sets her mind to it. And just gave her a glowing review. She hung up the phone, turned to the employee and he goes, "I don't want to be an idiot, so I have to hire you." She got the job.
That's great. That's hilarious. No, they do learn a ton. You're exactly right about that. I've always admired. I mean, anybody that goes through that, just all the things that are going on all the time, and yes, the multitasking and keeping your cool, and remembering to do many things at once and do them in the right order, and above all that, just making sure that you're treating the people you work with and the people that are there, trying to have a wonderful experience, treating them very well and making them feel welcome and happy no matter what you have on your mind. Very hard to do. And I can imagine, like you said, why it does take a few years, especially for somebody that starts at 15, 16, to really begin to really figure that out. So, no, it's a phenomenal experience, I'm sure. And y'all have, you've really just, I mean, it's amazing. So you've been doing it for, was it 2001? Y'all bought it, so you've been at it for 17 years now yourself, full time. Are you?
Yeah, on top of my high school and college years too.
Are you? What's next? Do you have kids that are going to take it over one day, or what's the future hold?
Both of our kids worked here, and both of them are at this point saying, yes, we'll run it either together or separately, but we'll figure that out when we have to. We have one daughter in Florida, and one in Rhode Island, so they're both saying yes, we'll do it, but who knows in 5 or 10 years when we're ready to retire, they will actually do it. But they both have that passion for it too, and love for the ice cream and a love for the business and the history of the business. So it'd be an honor if they did it, and it'd be truly, I'm getting choked up, but it'd be just wonderful for them to take over, because I know how proud my dad was when my wife and I, Peggy and I, took over the business and was able to keep it in the family. He was just, bragging and beaming ear to ear and just bragging to everybody that we took it over. So it'd be awesome if they did, and I hope that will happen someday. And I hope I'm still alive in 16 years when we hit 100, and there'll be another huge moment in our lives, and to see this place hit 100, and I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully I could live that long to enjoy that with, hopefully our kids running it.
Oh man, I bet you will. And I hope so too, Douglas. And that's, I could see why that's an emotional thing to think about your one or both your daughters being involved one day. What a thing. I mean, just, it runs in the family. My goodness, what an amazing story y'all have, an amazing business that you have. And I mean, just a really unique thing for that community. And I'm sure there's just been thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of great memories created there over the years, and you'll create many, many more. And man, just I tip my hat. I admire what y'all have done. I congratulate you, and we're humbled to serve y'all. And I love hearing your story, man. I just appreciate the opportunity very, very much, and wish y'all continued success. And just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's just wonderful hearing all the passion and love you have for that business, my man.
Well, thank you. I hope we have continued success.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Sounds like it's working pretty well.
Yeah. Not too bad. And I hope your company continues to grow and be prosperous and help out all the different restaurants and businesses that use your service.
Well, I
definitely
think
made our job a lot easier.
Oh, well, I appreciate that very much. We love what we do for sure. So we'll keep at it.
That's important.
It is, like you said. There's no doubt about it. When you love it and you're passionate about it, you pour everything you have into it, and that makes the difference. Well, I know you've got delivery, so I'll let you go. But just thank you, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your summer. I've always wanted to go to Cape Cod, so one day my wife and I always talk about that. So one day we're going to get there. When we do, I'm going to come with my 3 kids and have some Four Seas ice cream for sure. Yeah, absolutely. One more reason to go. There's like a million reasons to go, and here's another big one. So.
There you go.
All right,
Perfect.
man. Thanks, Douglas. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, see you.
Have a super day.
All right, see you. Bye.